We lost the plot! But it's okay, we found it again.
We're back with our series on the novel writing journey from conception to publication.
So welcome to our video on mastering plot and structure in novel writing.
Understanding these elements is vital if you want to write a compelling novel.
And I'm sure you do, because that's why you're here, to learn from our resident expert. Ta-da! Hi, I'm Rose Newland, the book designer for Alkira Publishing.
And I'm Talia Newland, the managing editor of Alkira Publishing.
So, what does the word plot mean in terms of a novel?
The plot of a story is the series of causes and effects which shape the story as a whole.
Isn't the plot the same as the story?
Not quite, no, they're slightly and importantly different. A story is a series of events. A plot is a series of events with causality between them.
Okay.
Relationships and causality. As E.M. Forster said, the king died and then the queen died is a story. The king died and then the queen died of grief is a plot.
Okay, so because it's a cause to effect relationship, it tells the cause of the queen's death as the relationship between
and the
king
relationship
dying.
between the king and,
Okay.
yeah.
So the basic elements of the plot are the protagonist's goal, and the antagonist, yeah?
Yeah.
Nice. I got it right. So the protagonist is the main character of the story, the person the reader follows and becomes emotionally invested in.
That's right, yeah.
Good.
A story can have multiple central characters, but it's important to have one primary protagonist, and you need to introduce them early in the story so the reader knows who the story is about.
And the goal is the protagonist's aim in the story.
Yes, it's what they must achieve, solve, or fix, or discover. And this goal needs to be clear to the reader by 15% mark of a novel. If you leave it later than 25% into the story, you risk losing the readers because they don't know what the story is about.
Like, what's happening in this book? It's just things.
That's right. So the goal tells the reader what the story is about.
Yeah. And what about the antagonist?
Oh, the antagonist is who or what is preventing the protagonist from achieving their goal.
The bad guy.
The bad guy.
Very vital element of the story.
Absolutely. They create the tension and the conflict for the story. And it can be non-human, such as fear or physical terrain, but having a person involved is stronger due to the unpredictability of human behaviour.
So these elements supply the relationships that form the basis of the cause and effect you mentioned before.
That's right, the plot, yes. And with these foundations in place, you're ready to start plotting your novel into a structure.
And so the most common plot structure which I've heard about is the 3-act structure. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, the 3-act structure is the classic storytelling framework, and it obviously divides the plot into 3 parts.
Beginning, middle, end?
Absolutely, beginning, middle and end. The beginning is the setup, where you introduce the protagonist, the setting and their goal. Mm-hmm. The second part is the confrontation. This is where the protagonist faces the obstacles and the conflicts, which leads to a big turning point. Mm-hmm. And number 3, the third part is the resolution, which is the climax of the story where the protagonist either achieves their goal or fails. And that's followed by a sort of resolution, a tying up of the loose ends.
Right. Another structure I've heard about is the hero's journey. That's quite common in fantasy, right?
It is, yes, but it can also be found in many different kinds of novels, myths, movies. It basically involves a hero entering onto an adventure, facing and overcoming difficulties and returning transformed.
Like the classic one, Lord of the Rings.
That's right,
Hero's journey. So I believe you said there are 12 points in the hero's journey. Let's go into each of those in a bit more detail, shall we?
Okay. So the hero's journey starts in the ordinary world. So this is where you introduce the protagonist in their normal life. Then you have the call to adventure.
Ooh, that's when the challenge or invitation or like something weird happens and it's like, you've got magical powers, you got to go do it's like the invitation to embark on the journey.
That's right.
Yeah.
Something happens that sets them off.
Yeah.
The inciting incident is
Yeah.
often called. Then you have the refusal of the call. The protagonist doesn't want to go. They don't
I
want
just
to.
want a normal life.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a magical fairy princess in another realm.
No. But then they meet their mentor.
Oh.
And the mentor gives them some support and
Gandalf.
yeah. Yeah, basically, yeah. The mentor, and in my Hero's Journey audio-visual web book, Psychomagination, Journey into the Psyche, my mentor is actually Persephone, goddess of the underworld. So
In some books, like the mentor is the inciting incident. It's like, just thinking about Lord of the Rings again as the popular example. Gandalf being the mentor and bringing the inciting incident is sort of all in one. So they don't have to be separate.
no, they don't have to be separate things. They're just elements that are in the story.
Yeah.
And they can be sequential, or they can,
Or they can all happen in one soup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So point number 5 of the hero's journey plot structure is crossing the threshold. And that's when the protagonist commits to the journey and enters a new world.
They go, fine, I'll be a fairy princess in that world.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'm off.
Okay.
Number 6 is tests, allies, and enemies. So the protagonist faces challenges, makes friends, and encounters foes.
I imagine that can be a fair chunk of the book as well. Like, there's a lot of things you could cover in that. There's lots of challenges, lots of friends, lots of little interactions along the journey, right?
Yeah. At some point, they approach what's called the innermost cave, where the protagonist prepares for a significant ordeal. So this is like going deep into the self and preparing for the big battle.
So that's usually inner journey stuff?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's a metaphorical cave. Then we have the ordeal, right? The protagonist confronts their greatest fear or challenge.
The big, like the climax of the story, right? The big battle with the end guy,
yeah. So
the villain battle, the final confrontation.
Yeah, we've had a whole bunch of little things that they have to overcome that build up to this big thing. Like Frodo's battle to drop the ring into the lava in the volcano. That's the final.
That's the final part.
That's the final thing he has to overcome.
Yeah.
So number 9 of the hero's journey plot structure is the reward. Right? The protagonist achieves their goal or receives something valuable.
She gets her crown in the princess. The princess finally gets her crown.
Yeah, or often this is a realization, a spiritual, emotional realization of some kind.
Frodo just gets to go home.
But he also,
reward.
but
He saves the land.
yeah, that's his reward, and he also has learned something about himself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's where the inner and outer journeys sort of culminate, isn't it?
Yeah. Then we have number 10 is the road back. So the protagonist starts their journey back to the ordinary world. So, that is still another journey.
It's usually skipped over and highly condensed if it is.
Yeah, but it's important because it's how they are going to bring together all their experiences and what are they going to do with that experience as they come back to their
life after that massive event sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right. So number 11 is resurrection. The protagonist faces a final test or battle resulting in personal transformation. Now, this is not necessarily a separate thing to the what we talked about before.
Yeah.
But
often
it can be.
So it's more the inner journey part of the final
battle,
test,
which can be separated or it can sort of be all at once. I mean,
so these don't necessarily have to happen in order.
No.
Yeah.
It's a flexible thing. So point number 12 of the hero's journey is returning with the elixir. Yeah, so the protagonist returns home and they share their newfound wisdom or their treasure with others.
I defeated the dragon and brought all the treasure home for my town.
Yeah, well, that's that kind of thing.
I'm really simplifying it.
Yeah, or just often it's just inner wisdom. It might the hero's journey is often used in a coming of age sort of story.
Yeah.
That that's sort of like it doesn't have to be precisely the 12 points like that, but it's often got those elements in a coming of age story.
So, how do you suggest that authors work with these kinds of set plot structures?
Well, I would say just experiment with them, sort of in their mind. How would that fit the story that I want to write? And just choose the ones that work best for your novel, if any of them do. So the important thing is not to feel that you have to follow them exactly. Don't let them limit you or stop you trying something different. They're just structures that have been shown to work. So they're kind of like a safe structure to use. They will,
or to like fall back on if you're like, it feels like it needs something here.
Yeah, they can be just something that you can review and then look at your story and go, well, maybe I need those elements of there, maybe I need more of them in my story, that kind of thing.
When you say these kinds of plot structures, Hero's Journey is just one of them, and there are others?
Yeah, there's the 6-point plot structure of screenwriting, which also applies to novel. There's also a 7-point plot structure, so, you know.
Right, so there's a few different ways you can categorise these kinds of things.
A book can have elements of the hero's journey in it without following it completely.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean...
So the structures are more like guidelines than actual rules.
Thank you, Barbosa from Pirates One.
Yes. So how do you approach plotting your books? Do you use the hero's journey? Do you use another kind of plot structure? Let us know in the comments below. For more help with writing your novel, you can download our novel revision checklist. We'll put the link in the description.
And don't forget to like this video and share it, and please subscribe to our channel so you don't miss more of our videos on novel writing.